In my early years as a student, I was taught and sought to be best in class. However, over the course of 5 decades, I have developed into an avid seeker of knowledge. Time and experience have afforded me the opportunity to recognize the necessity of actual learning for application in life, rather than feeling the pressure to institute short term memorization skills to attain a letter grade as a statement of accomplishment. Today, I ask a simple question: what really defines a student's success? Is it the letter grade at the end of the semester or the knowledge they gained along the way? This question lies at the heart of a growing issue in education: the conflict between grades and knowledge. Grades are often seen as the ultimate measure of a student's ability, reflecting their performance, intelligence, and understanding of subjects. However, this numeric and letter based system has become so ingrained in our academic culture that we sometimes forget its flaws. Grades, unfortunately, don't always correlate with real learning. A student might score an A on an exam, but struggle to apply that knowledge in real world scenarios. Another student who might not perform well on tests could have a deeper, more conceptual understanding of the material. This disconnect is the crux of the problem. The focus on grades overshadows the real purpose of education: learning. The problem isn't that grades are inherently bad, but rather that they don't always represent true comprehension. Instead of encouraging exploration, critical thinking, and problem solving, the emphasis on grades often fosters rote memorization, stress, and anxiety. As Alfie Kohn notes in his article, The Case Against Grades, grades are often used as a substitute for genuine learning and can undermine intrinsic motivation. When we look from the perspective of the learning institutions, more importantly, the instructors, we see a need to produce productive students within the defined environment. There exists a necessity of needing students to pass as a means of projecting a successful classroom environment and thus present the presenter as exceptional in a particular field of academia. But what's truly the educator's role in this system? Teachers are tasked with ensuring that students not only perform well on exams, but also absorb the material in a meaningful way. However, the pressures to cover the curriculum, meet standardized testing requirements, and ensure students get passing grades often prevent teachers from fostering deep learning experiences. Most educators know that the most effective learning happens when students engage with the material, ask questions, and make connections to their own lives. They understand that some of the most valuable lessons are not quantifiable: how a student thinks, how they approach the problems, and how they collaborate with others. But within the constraints of grading systems, there's a conflict between these ideals and the practicalities of assessment. Teachers are often caught in a balancing act, attempting to meet the demands of a system that doesn't always reward creative, comprehensive learning approaches. John Hattie and Gregory Zaire, in their work on the power of feedback, emphasize that feedback, rather than grades, has a far greater impact on student learning and achievement. Furthermore, the focus on grades can unintentionally lead to a narrow view of success. Teachers may feel pressure to conform to standardized tests and rigid grading rubrics that don't capture a full student's understanding. As a result, even the most dedicated educators may fall into the trap of teaching to the test rather than fostering genuine curiosity. Now, let's consider the student's perspective. For many students, grades are the most tangible aspect of their educational experience. They are often taught to prioritize grades over the actual learning process, as they believe that the grades are the key to their future success, whether that's securing a job, gaining college admission, or pleasing their parents. In this environment, students become conditioned to focus on outcomes rather than the process of gaining knowledge. They may memorize facts for an exam but fail to internalize or truly understand them. The pressure to maintain a high GPA can lead to a number of negative outcomes: burnout, stress, lack of motivation. When students prioritize grades over understanding, the joy of learning diminishes. As Don Pope discusses in his book, Doing School, this pressure can lead to a generation of stressed out and overworked students who equate their self worth with their grades rather than their personal growth. Moreover, this system can disproportionately affect students with different learning styles or those who may not perform well under traditional testing conditions, let alone the fact that there is a disparity between higher and lower achieving school districts due to resources and the additional responsibilities the students in lower achieving, mostly urban and financially limited districts deal with. While some students may thrive in these A, B, C, D, F environments, others may feel marginalized or discouraged. The current system, for all its efforts to be fair and objective, does not always take into account the full spectrum of student potential and intelligence. So how can we solve this problem? How can we balance the need for grading with the imperative to foster true knowledge and understanding? The solution requires a fundamental shift in how we view both grades and education. First, we must redefine what grades should represent. Rather than using grades as the sole indicator of student ability, they should become one part of a more comprehensive evaluation. And though gradeless environment has been suggested, the determination of success or failure rests solely on the judgment of an individual, the instructor, and is thereby skewed by their particular scope of knowledge, experiences, and biases. However, teachers could incorporate other forms of assessment such as project-based learning, peer reviews, or self-assessments. These methods can give a clearer picture of a student's capabilities, especially in areas such as creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving. Second, we need to change the focus from superficial rewards to intrinsic motivation. Rather than constantly telling students to aim for the next grade, we should emphasize the value of knowledge itself. This means fostering an environment where curiosity is encouraged, mistakes are seen as part of the learning process, and mastery is more important than memorization. Educators should be empowered to design assessments that reflect real-world applications of knowledge, projects, presentations, or long-term assignments that give students a deeper, more lasting understanding of what they learn. Third, we should provide more personalized learning experiences. Every student learns differently, and by recognizing this, we can offer a variety of ways to demonstrate understanding. For instance, students who struggle with test taking might benefit from oral presentations, hands-on projects, or written reflections. We must also embrace the idea of formative assessment, where feedback is ongoing and helps students improve in real time, rather than relying solely on weekly tests or final grades. Finally, let's promote a culture of learning for the sake of learning. This is perhaps the most important shift. When students are allowed to explore topics that interest them, work collaboratively with peers, and engage in open-ended inquiry, they will begin to see the value in knowledge for its own sake, rather than as something to be tested or graded. Linda Darling Hammond, in her influential paper on authentic assessment, advocates for assessments that measure the deeper, more meaningful learning that occurs in real-world contexts. The onus ultimately falls on the student to maintain a balance, maybe more importantly, a desire to not only succeed in a somewhat archaic structure that weighs their ability to keep pace with lesson plans and syllabi, but to want to strive to gain a level of working comprehension in the discipline they are studying. And though parents and educators should encourage the same for the generation they are setting the example for, and should recognize the world's changing dynamic where getting good grades to get into a good school, to get an entry-level position, and hopefully make middle management. Students need to recognize that their success relies on the decisions they are making for, and quite frankly, against themselves. In conclusion, we have all played a role in the way in which we assess educational benchmarks. We've not only shirked our responsibility outright, but have allowed devices on social media, platforms, political correctness, and the coddling of the American mind to shrink our roles as a society and not speak the truth. And what's true? As educators, you want to look better to your contemporaries and move up the ladder in your profession, understandably. And worse, as students, you want the same. Most egregious is that this is accepted. It's time to dig deeper into your true selves. What do you really want for your life? Remember when you wanted to learn how to tie your shoes? There was nothing that presented itself that would stop you. And now you do it without thought, with mastery. Please, I urge you, everyone, let's move forward in life and learning with that same passion. And sure, there will always be someone there to grade you to some degree, and that's okay. Take that as motivation, as a need to gain more education and become a master of your knowledge.